Have you ever met someone for the very first time and instantly felt like you could trust them? Or maybe something about them just felt wrong. You couldn't explain it. They hadn't said anything. They hadn't done anything. Yet somehow, your brain had already made a decision. Here's the surprising part. This isn't just a feeling. It's psychology. Research suggests that people often form powerful first impressions within just a few seconds of meeting someone. Before a real conversation even begins, your brain is already processing facial expressions, posture, eye contact, voice, clothing, and dozens of other tiny signals. But why? How can your mind decide so much with so little information? And more importantly, can your brain actually be wrong? Today, we're decoding one of the fastest and most fascinating psychological processes inside the human mind. Imagine you're walking into a coffee shop. Across the room, someone looks up. For just a brief moment, your eyes meet. Nothing is said. No names are exchanged. No handshake. Yet your brain is already asking silent questions. Can I trust this person? Are they friendly? Are they confident? Could they be a threat? The strange thing is, you never choose to ask these questions. Your brain asks them automatically, without your permission, and it answers them just as quickly. This automatic process has helped humans survive for thousands of years, long before cities existed, long before phones, or even written language. Our ancestors lived in dangerous environments. Meeting a stranger wasn't always exciting. Sometimes, it was life or death. If someone hesitated too long before deciding whether a stranger was dangerous, they might never get another chance. So the human brain evolved to make incredibly fast judgments, not because they were always perfect, but because they were often good enough to keep us alive. Even today, although we no longer face wild predators every day, our brains still use the same ancient survival system. Only now, instead of deciding whether someone is dangerous with a spear, we're deciding whether they seem trustworthy in a job interview, whether they look confident during a presentation, or whether we'd like to become friends with them. The environment has changed, but the brain hasn't changed nearly as much. Psychologists often describe the brain as a prediction machine. Its job isn't simply to observe the world. Its job is to predict what might happen next. Every second, your brain receives an enormous amount of information, far more than you could consciously pay attention to. The color of the walls, the sound of footsteps, the tone of someone's voice, their facial expression, the direction they're looking, their clothing, their posture, the speed of their movements. If your conscious mind tried to analyze every single detail, you'd become mentally exhausted within minutes. Instead, your brain relies on shortcuts. These shortcuts are called heuristics. Heuristics allow your brain to make quick decisions using limited information. Most of the time, they're incredibly useful. But sometimes, they're also responsible for some of the biggest mistakes we make when judging other people. Let's try a simple thought experiment. Imagine two strangers walk into the same room. The first person smiles warmly, makes eye contact, walks confidently, speaks calmly. The second person avoids eye contact, looks nervous, keeps their arms crossed, speaks very quietly. Without knowing anything about either person, who would you trust more? Most people immediately choose the first person. But here's the twist. What if the first person was actually trying to deceive you, and the second person was simply shy? Suddenly, your first impression doesn't seem so reliable. This is one of the biggest weaknesses of the human brain. It loves making quick decisions. But quick doesn't always mean accurate. Scientists have found that people often associate certain facial features with specific personality traits, even when there's no real evidence. A strong jawline might make someone seem more confident. A warm smile may make someone appear more trustworthy. A serious expression can make a person seem unfriendly. The fascinating part? Many of these judgments happen automatically. You don't consciously decide to think them. Your brain creates them in the background, before you're even aware of them. That's why first impressions feel so real, even when they're completely wrong. And this leads us to one of psychology's biggest questions. If our brains are designed to make fast judgments, how often are those judgments actually true? So, how can a single first impression influence so many important decisions? The answer lies in one of psychology's most powerful mental shortcuts. It's called the halo effect. Imagine meeting someone who is well-dressed, speaks confidently, and smiles warmly. Within seconds, your brain may also assume they're intelligent, kind, successful, or even more honest. But here's the catch. You don't actually know any of those things. Your brain simply fills in the missing information. This is the halo effect, a cognitive bias where one positive trait shapes how we see everything else about a person. In other words, one good impression creates a halo that influences all the judgments that follow. This doesn't only happen with strangers. It affects our daily lives more than we realize. Think about celebrities. Many people assume that because a famous actor is talented on screen, they must also be wise in real life. Or because a successful entrepreneur built a billion-dollar company, they must be an expert on every topic. But success in one area doesn't automatically mean expertise in another. Our brains often confuse confidence with competence, and appearance with character. Now imagine you're sitting in a job interview. Two candidates walk through the door. The first candidate enters confidently. They smile, maintain eye contact, shake hands firmly. The second candidate looks nervous. Their voice shakes slightly. They avoid eye contact. Who do you think most interviewers will naturally feel more positive about? Even before hearing their answers, many people are already leaning toward the first candidate, not because they're necessarily better, but because first impressions create expectations. And once those expectations are formed, our brains start looking for evidence that confirms them. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. Instead of searching for the truth, we often search for information that supports what we already believe. Imagine believing someone is kind. When they make a small mistake, you forgive them. You think, they probably didn't mean it. Now imagine believing someone is rude. The exact same mistake suddenly feels intentional. Same action, different judgment. The only thing that changed was your expectation. This is how powerful first impressions can become. But first impressions aren't only about other people. They're also about ourselves. Have you ever walked into a room believing that nobody would like you? Maybe you spoke less, avoided eye contact, stayed quiet. Without realizing it, your own expectations changed your behavior. Psychologists call this a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we believe something strongly enough, we often behave in ways that help make it true. If you expect rejection, you may become distant. Others respond to that distance. And suddenly, your original belief feels confirmed, not because it was true, but because your behavior helped create that outcome. This explains why confidence is so powerful. Confident people aren't always the smartest or the most talented, but confidence changes body language, voice, posture, eye contact, all the signals our brains naturally pay attention to. And because people respond positively to confidence, confidence often grows even stronger. It's a cycle. One positive impression leads to another. However, there's another side to this story. Sometimes, our brains judge people unfairly. Someone may look tired after a sleepless night. Someone else may appear nervous because they're anxious. Another person may seem unfriendly simply because they're naturally quiet. Yet our brains quickly attach labels: lazy, awkward, arrogant, untrustworthy. Labels created within seconds. That can last for years. The frightening part is, the person being judged often has no idea it's happening. Researchers have repeatedly found that first impressions can influence hiring decisions, classroom expectations, business relationships, and even legal outcomes. In many situations, people are treated differently before they've had a fair chance to show who they really are. That's why understanding your own psychology matters. The goal isn't to stop making first impressions. That's impossible. Your brain is designed to make them. The goal is to recognize that they're only a starting point, not the whole story. Every person you meet is more complex than your first 7 seconds can ever reveal. So the next time you instantly decide that someone seems trustworthy or suspicious, ask yourself one simple question. Am I seeing this person as they truly are, or am I seeing the story my brain created? That single question can make you a better listener, a better friend, a better leader, and a better decision maker. Because sometimes, the biggest mistake isn't judging people quickly. It's believing that your first judgment must be correct.